Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Dirk, and I'll be the moderator for today's call. Thank you for joining this live, interactive telephone town hall. We would love to hear from you today. We'll be taking as many questions from participants as we possibly can live on this event. So if you have a question, you can press *3 on your phone keypad at any time, and you'll be placed in line to speak with a member of our staff. They'll take down your name and where you're calling from. Then the next time you hear your name, you will be live on the call and able to ask your question directly. Now, if you're streaming the event on our website, you can simply type your name and question below the streaming player. We'll do our best to answer as many questions as we possibly can during this event. And that just about does it for this call's housekeeping reminders. And now, it's my pleasure to get this call started off by introducing United Cooperative Services General Manager and CEO, Cameron Smallwood. Cameron, take it away, sir.
Hi, Dirk. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Cameron Smallwood. Thank you for joining us today. As a lot of you know, United engages its members in many ways, including through community meetings, its annual meeting each October, Texas Co-op Power Magazine, social media such as Facebook, and regular daily interactions, just to name a few ways. Today, we're leveraging the telephone town hall program that we've done over the past 2 years since COVID kicked off to try to engage our members as well. So during our time today, I will provide an update on major initiatives at our cooperative, but also our continuing navigation through the challenging times posed by this pandemic and February's Winter Storm Uri. I know your time is valuable, so I'll be as efficient as I can today, and hopefully you'll be able to ask some questions that I'll be able to answer for you if you have any. As the moderator said, just do that by pressing *3 on your phone keypad.
Thank you very much, Cameron. As I mentioned earlier, this is an interactive forum, and we certainly would love to hear from you. We are going to be taking as many questions from participants on the phone and online as we possibly can during this event. So again, if you have a question and you're listening in on your telephone right now, you can press *3 on your phone keypad at any time. You'll be placed in line to speak with a member of our staff, where they'll take down your name and where you're calling from. Then the next time you hear your name, you'll be live on the call and able to ask your question. Now, if you're streaming the event online, remember, you can simply type your name and question right below the streaming player. We're going to do our best to answer as many questions as we possibly can, but if we're not able to address your question today, please leave us a voicemail at the end of this event by simply remaining on the line, or you can call our office at 254-965-3153. Again, 254-965-3153. Again, if you have any questions throughout this call, please press *3 on your keypad or type your question below the streaming player. Back to you, Cameron.
Thank you, Dirk, and just appreciate everyone taking time to be with us this evening for an update from your cooperative. I think you'll get some good information tonight. And again, please ask questions if you got any. We'll try to answer as many as we can that are presented to us. I already see a few coming in, and we'll take those as we can at the end of the presentation, which will be relatively brief. I just want to start with saying some of you are online and following us that way, and we actually have some slides. So those of you that are online will see those slides. It's not necessary to the presentation, though, because I'll be discussing points from the slides pretty well. You don't necessarily have to see them to participate. So you may hear me say something about a slide if you're just listening in, but that's okay. You'll still get the point. So I want to first start with, we're very pleased that you're paying attention to our presentation tonight. And our mission to you as members and owners of our electric cooperative is exceptional service and value. And we've been talking about that for years now, and we're laser focused on doing both of those things for you. And I just want you to know that that's our focus 100%, is to provide you that service that no one else does, and also provide value. So when you pay your electric bill each month, and now your internet bill, as many of you do, that you feel like you've gotten your money's worth, and that's what we're all about here at the co-op. So I want to talk to you about a few things, and first about your cooperative in general. We're nearing 100,000 meters, which is a pretty big milestone for us. We're probably about a year and a half from hitting that. We're about 95,000, but we're growing pretty rapidly right now, actually as fast as we did in the late 90s. And we haven't seen that kind of growth until this last year, and it's stretched us a little bit, which is okay. But we've got a lot of new members coming on very rapidly, and it's not just in one part of our territory. It's pretty much all across our system. And those of you that are listening in, many of you from the Stephenville area, and you know what Tarleton State and the money that's going in there has brought more students and more people to that area, and we're seeing the growth all around the Stephenville area right now. So some of you probably don't like that. But I think that your cooperative is handling it pretty well, and we're trying to stay on top of things as those requests are coming in. As far as your co-op, we have over 180 employees serving you across now 7 offices, and I'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second. Over 11,000 miles of electric lines, and so that's a lot of miles that we cover and maintain and operate for your benefit. One of the things that we do, and it's part of the cooperative business model, is returning equity back to you. So as you pay your power bill each month, you own a little bit bigger part of your electric cooperative, and over the years we're able to retire some of that equity back to our members. And I want to talk about how the winter storm has affected our ability to do that this year here in a little bit. But since 2000, we retired almost $85 million back to the membership. And I believe, while we have a year or two, maybe 3, where that might not happen like it has in the past, it is a hallmark of our business model, and I expect we will get back to that as we go forward. But I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. Obviously, COVID has been an impact to your cooperative in many ways. I'd like to report that for the most part, we're pretty much back to normal. We had taken a number of steps. Your board of directors, which is elected by you, and the staff of your cooperative took a number of steps when COVID started. We had closed offices for a period of time. We had done certain things with the employee group, but we've tried to drive that back to normal in as many ways as possible to be able to serve you and meet your expectations. So obviously we have a little bit of a surge right now, but I think we're handling it pretty well as an employee group, and have tended to only have a few employees out at once. And so I think that's been a good thing, and we've taken some steps to help that here at your co-op, and don't expect any major issues from where we sit today. So that's an update there. The other thing, and I've got a slide up talking about Winter Storm Uri, and that's we're getting further and further away from February, but obviously February was a major event for the utility industry altogether in Texas, and your cooperative was affected just like many others were in Texas. And I believe we did a pretty effective job in rotating the outages the way we were supposed to, and we've heard comment after comment of kudos from our members about how we handled the situation. It's never fun to turn anybody's power off, but we did it sparingly, limited it as much as we could, and we kept the outages short, and we were able to do that effectively. And I think overall, even though it was sort of a pain in everybody's neck, I think our members appreciated the fact that we kept the outages short and that we kept your power on. Even when customers from across the state were reporting 4 and 5 and 6 days of outages, you didn't have that. And so we worked hard to ensure that. And I think for the most part, even though it was, like I said, a pain in the neck, our members are pretty appreciative of that. With that said, we've gotten through the storm, so to speak. We got through the operational issues of it. What's left is the financial issues of the storm. And I'll tell you, across the state, that really hasn't been addressed in a big way. And so I hate to report that to you, being several months, 6-7 months past the event, that even today the financial ramifications haven't been figured out yet across the state. But that's the reality of the situation we're in, and United's in that same boat. We have an additional complexity that our power supplier, and so Brazos Electric Cooperative, who we basically just pass through the cost of power to our members, has filed for bankruptcy protection. That was done because the bills that were sent to Brazos were so large it couldn't pay them, or if it did pay them, that cost would have been passed on to us and thus you, and we knew that you couldn't pay it. And so ultimately, Brazos filed for bankruptcy protection, and we had hopes early on that bankruptcy would wrap up by about now, but it's gotten horribly complex, and the result is there's litigation inside the bankruptcy now. There's all sorts of challenges that we have, and I won't go into great detail there. But know this, that it's probably going to be the second quarter 22 before that's resolved, and which that means we're not going to have a lot of answers as to what the financial ramifications to our members are going to be, and that's along with the other 15 co-ops that own and operate Brazos. So there's a lot of us that are affected, probably about 1 million customers in Texas that are sort of waiting to see what the impact of the bankruptcy is going to be. Had we gotten billed the amount that we could have been billed, and this hasn't been vetted yet, but estimates are about $2 a kilowatt hour for the month of your February usage. And so it wasn't uncommon to see a member in February use somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 kilowatt hours during that month. And so if you put those dollars to that, that's about an $8,000 to $10,000 electric bill. And I'm sure many of you are saying, wow, right now, and you should be. Bottom line is we know we can't send that to you, and we're not going to. And so we're looking at ways, working through the bankruptcy process right now to keep that from occurring. We recognize we have to do everything we can to protect our members in this situation. I do want you to know there's not a decision that United made that put us in this position. These are all things that happen at the Brazos level and at the state level, and some of which were outside of Brazos' control. And so bottom line is we've got to do everything we can to mitigate as much of that as possible. We do think there likely will be some amount of cost that gets passed to members, but we're trying to minimize that as much as possible. We've worked within the legislature this year to try to affect what was going to happen there. The only real thing that came out of the legislature was a bill called House Bill 1580, which allows cooperatives to securitize debts related to the winter storm. And so whatever the bankruptcy court at the end of the day says we have to pay, we're going to have to pay. And in a worst-case scenario, we may have to securitize that within the law that's been passed in Texas. And if we do, that's going to put a debt on our books probably for the next 20 to 30 years to pay off. And so we don't really like that either, but that's the reality of what we're dealing with today, and we're working through that. But I will tell you this, our board of directors has hired, working with the management, has hired a really good team of experts to work on your behalf, both attorneys and financial experts, and we'll probably be reaching out to some investment bankers as well through the process to ensure that we're doing everything we can to limit the negative impact on our members as we go through this process with Brazos. And so just want you to know that is something that we're spending a significant amount of time on right now, and I'm sure you would expect us to based on what I've told you today. With the winter storm as it happened, the board made a decision to delay in basically March to delay the rate adjustment that we had planned on April 1st. When they made that decision, we knew what impact that was going to have, and that was basically going to be a reduction of revenue that we planned to have this year. And that reduction in revenue ended up being about $6 million. And so we have collected about $6 million less from you than we planned this year. At the same time as we've gone forward in this bankruptcy process, ultimately another thing we're learning is we may lose our equity in Brazos, and which would be a negative thing for our financial situation, and it's looking like that's going to be very possible. And because of that and the fact that we've already returned $6 million to you through a temporary rate reduction this year, our board chose to not send member dividends this year. And that's a check we typically send out in September that you get. And that was a decision the board made to basically ensure the financial integrity of your cooperative going forward. Unfortunately, the bankruptcy may put us in a position where we're not able to retire those member dividends for the next few years. We don't know the answer to that yet, but it's looking likely that could be an outcome of the Brazos bankruptcy at this point in time. So I wanted y'all to be aware of that as members and our situation right there. The next slide talks about our facilities. I've been communicating with you if you read our Texas Co-op Power. And by the way, I'll put a plug in there. We spent a lot of time on putting that together for our members. And so that is the primary source for you to get the information of what's going on at your cooperative. So if you don't look at your Texas Co-op Power, you're missing out on a lot. And so I would encourage you to do that. But for those of you that do read it, you've seen that we've been talking about some facilities work that we're working on, basically a new office in Mansfield and a rework of our Cleveland office. And so we had started those projects. We were about a third of the way into the design of those projects with the architects and engineers, and those have been put on hold. One of the things that we had done in preparation for shutting the Cleveland office down to revisit that site was we purchased a Wells Fargo bank that had just shut down and got a really good deal on it. They're in Joshua on Highway 174, and I know it doesn't affect the members in Stephenville so much, but I wanted you to be aware of why we did it. We did it because it was the cheapest way to temporarily house our employees during construction. But now that we've delayed reconstruction of the Cleveland office, we're actually having to use it for employees in daily use now. And so that office has opened to our employees, but it will open to the public on October 4th. So I wanted y'all to be aware that change has happened, and that's why the 6 offices has now turned into 7 or in the process thereof. Next thing I'd like to talk about is the annual meeting process. We really I enjoy, and I know our employees enjoy getting together with our members at the annual meeting. The Glen Rose ISD basically had some reservations about us potentially using their facilities for a second year in the row. And so we've really come up with maybe a different way to do this going forward. So we're going to test it this year and see how you like it as members. The annual meeting itself will be by phone and computer, just like we're doing this event right now. But during that day, since we're not bringing you all together for the annual meeting, we're going to have member appreciation days at every office. And so we'll have the employees in those local areas there and meet with you. If you want to come and visit us, we would sure love to see you and talk to you. I plan to try to get to several offices during the time frame to the best of my ability before I get back to the Burleson office in order to do the annual meeting. But ultimately, we're going to have some food. We're going to have some your gimme bags that we normally have at the annual meeting. We'll have some door prizes at those local events and have the opportunity for you to come and visit with our employees and enjoy that. And so one of the questions I have for you, so we've got a polling question, is would you do it? And so, Dirk, would you run that polling question for us, please?
Most definitely. Happy to do that. As another part of this telephone town hall format, I've been mentioning it's interactive, and this is an opportunity for you to weigh in and give us your opinion. All you need to do is choose the corresponding number on your telephone handset to place your vote. And so our polling question, the Member Appreciation Day that Cameron just talked about, October 15th, from 10 to 2 p.m., featuring food and giveaways at each of the cooperative's local offices, which is going to happen in advance of the virtual annual meeting that's going to start at 4 o'clock on October 15th. The question is, would you be willing to attend the Member Appreciation event? Yes, you definitely would. Please press 1. You would, but you have a conflict on that date. Please press 2. No way you would attend such a thing. Please press 3 on your telephone keypad. Again, we're looking for your input by using a poll feature on this telephone town hall. You just need to use your telephone keypad. And the question is, would you be willing to attend the Member Appreciation event just spoken about? Press 1 for yes, definitely. 2 if you would but have a conflict on that day. And press 3 if it's no way for you. And I notice that I see votes are being tabulated. Thank you very much for participating. And now I'll throw it back to you, Cameron.
Sir, thank you. And we'll move forward. Thank you all for your response there. We look forward to seeing you on October 15th and hope you can dial into your annual meeting as well. We'll move forward, and I'll talk about rates a little bit because that's an important thing for all of our members. And as I mentioned earlier, the value part of our equation is very important to your cooperative, and we understand it is for the membership. I've got on the screen a view of our September rate watch, and for those of you that know, we put this in our magazine every month, so we try to be transparent with how our rates compare to those around us in REP markets like Encore and then City of Granbury and other co-ops across the state. And I'm happy to report we've been at the low side of this for a long time now, and we still are. If you look at the slide, or if you look at the slide in our magazine, you'll see that we have a solar rate, and then we have the standard rate. The solar rate is sort of closed right now, unfortunately, so we have about 6,000 folks paying, part of that right now. We're not adding any others at this point, and the reason is because the Brazos bankruptcy may have some contractual issues related to our solar plans, and so we're trying not to add any more members to it until we have resolution of that. But the minute we feel comfortable in doing it, we're going to open it back up, and we've got a pretty long waiting list right now of members that want to be a part of that plan, and we hope to be able to do that for you. As of right now, the contracts have held, and we've been able to continue to offer it, and we hope that that's going to be the case as we move forward. But you'll see our September rate being 9.37 cents per kilowatt hour, and that's pretty good. If you were to go to the REP market right now, you'll see the rates going up significantly. So I think you're getting extreme value out of your cooperative right now. And talking about, and I mentioned earlier the rate adjustment that was planned for April 1st that shifted, and it did shift. So your October billing period, you'll see, if you pay attention to a very small adjustment, it's about a 6% adjustment in your rate. You probably wouldn't even notice it if I hadn't brought it up, but I wanted you to be aware of it and just to know how we compete after the rate adjustment with the other wires companies around us. So we serve in and around Encore territories, which is REP territory, and we serve in and around Texas, New Mexico power territories as well. Our adjusted rate on a 2,000 kilowatt hour basis is about 3.3 cents for distribution, and for Encore it's about 4.1 cents, and for Texas, New Mexico it's about 5.3 cents. So even though we have a small adjustment there, we're still significantly cheaper than the two investor-owned utilities that we compete against from a wire standpoint every day. And I think that's really good news for our members that we've been able to maintain that kind of rate, and I expect that we'll continue to be able to do that as we go forward. So I wanted you all to be aware of that. Now, I'm seeing a bunch of questions, and almost all of them have to do with Internet. And so I'm going to shift to an update to Internet sort of to close our call today before I take questions. About two and a half years ago, we started a process to evaluate this. Most of you know that. Most of you voted, and the vote came out 91% positive for us to move forward with this project. And so we've done it. We're about a year and a half in since we've started hanging fiber on our lines. And we've got almost 1,500 miles of fiber hanging up right now. And we haven't slowed down at all. We've continued to look at ways to get faster at deploying that fiber. And so we have about 7,000 members that are participating and connected right now. And so that's a really good thing. And we're looking forward to continuing to move that as quickly as we can. And so I'll answer some specific questions here in a little bit on that. At our website at ucs.net, there's a portion for Internet. If you go to that and you haven't already signed up, you can sign up there. You can also see a map that actually shows where we are currently serving and where we're constructing currently. And you'll see on that map that we've started constructing a significant amount of fiber in and around Stephenville, which I know a lot of you are going to be happy with. As we go forward, we also have areas of PK and also areas south in Bosque County that we're going to be working on as well over the next 6 to 9 months. And so we're really trying to work quickly to get in our more rural areas with the fiber. I can tell you this: the members that are a part of the system are really enjoying the difference. I'm one of them. I finally got service a few months ago. And I can't tell you the difference between the AT&T service that I had and the United. It's amazing. And so I hope that you'll see the same. That's what we're getting reports back from our members in general, that they're very excited and happy with the service that we're providing. And so there's a lot of information on our website about pricing and so forth that I probably won't answer right now, because you can go to the website and see that pretty easily. But I'm going to go ahead and stop there, Dirk, and then we're going to roll into the question and answer session.
Okay, fantastic. As a reminder to everyone listening in on their telephone to this call, if you have a question you'd like to ask, now is the time. Most definitely, please press *3 on your telephone keypad to enter the question queue. If you're listening in through our website and following along there, you can actually submit your question along with your name right below the streaming player. So I've got a question here that was submitted online, Cameron, and the question is, why is internet prioritization to urban areas that have other high-speed options?
That's a great question. And so when we started our project, we had to start somewhere, and we installed 2 different head-ends. Our first head-end to become available was in the Burleson area, and the Stephenville head-end wasn't available probably for a good 9 months after that. Not because we didn't have the materials there. We had to have the connections live to Dallas to make that work. And so we started building where we could basically serve first. And so we had the connections to Dallas first in Burleson, so we started building in that area. And so it wasn't necessarily an urban-rural split. It was where we could start first. And so the second part, sort of to your question, is that the areas that we're serving already have high-speed options. That's not actually true. And so the areas that we're serving in Burleson did not have high-speed options, and they had a lower-speed DSL is all they had access to, or wireless, which wasn't very good. And so ultimately they didn't have high-speed options, and that's why that it's been so successful over here. I will say, just for everybody's knowledge, that if there's already fiber in a subdivision, we're typically not overbuilding that fiber. We're taking that money and we're putting it in areas where there is no fiber. And now members, we've had some complaints about that, I will tell you, because just because you have fiber from a different company doesn't mean your service is good. And we've run into that issue a number of times now. But we're trying to spend more of our time for the folks that don't have fiber access today, and making that our priority. That doesn't mean we have forgotten the members that do have fiber with poor service. We're talking to them too, but we're trying to make sure that we're balancing the installation to the best that we can to the folks that need it the most. And so it's a really good question that was asked, and we're trying to weigh that, understanding that the members that have nothing need it more than members that have options. And so I get the question, and we're trying to take that into account.
All right, moving on to a phone call. We've got Steve joining us on the line. Steve, welcome to the call. You're live with Cameron. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. My question, my comment was, having been a former utility employee, having retired from the old Texas utilities, I'm very, very upset about the outages last February. And I realize that it's because of the way that the legislature didn't do their due diligence in setting up deregulation. There has to be some kind of incentive for independent power generators to do their best to not be knocked off in cold weather. It's just we went too far with deregulation. All we regulate now are the lines, and there has to be an incentive for generators to be online in inclement weather in the wintertime. I don't know.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I think you're asking a good question, and I think it's an interesting question in that you're recognizing that things didn't go well in February, and they didn't, and there's a number of reasons for that. The fact that we don't have a single system the way we used to. We used to, before deregulation, we sort of planned as a whole to make sure that we covered the load that was expected. And I think that with deregulation, there's definitely less planning that takes place from that perspective. It's more of a, okay, there's enough generators out there to cover it. We can trust that they'll be on. And so the way the market's designed today, there's some issues with it, but there is an incentive designed to get people to generate, and that's the $9,000 market cap. And that's $9,000 a megawatt hour or $9 a kilowatt hour. And I spoke about that a little bit earlier. Ultimately, what happened, though, in the February event, because of the cold weather, because of lack of natural gas, there were a number of reasons, the generators, even though they were incented with the highest price possible, there wasn't enough generation to come online. And so the 9,000 stayed for a long period of time, so every kilowatt hour that got used, cleared the market at $9,000 a megawatt hour. Normally, which is $9 a kilowatt hour, normally you pay on your bill each month about 5 cents, maybe 6 cents on the Brazos portion of your bill. And like I said, the February portion of that bill, due to the winter storm and the fact that the $9 prices were reached quite a bit, ultimately ends up at about a $2 mark for that February bill, which didn't get billed to you. But so to go from 5 cents to $2 is a pretty big deal. And the incentive was there for generators to run. They just couldn't. Either they couldn't because they were frozen, or they couldn't because they couldn't get natural gas. There were a lot of different reasons for that. But what it shows is the market's not working, and there needs to be some reform of the market. It hasn't happened yet. We were at your cooperative, just so you know, we actually advocated for significant changes as a result of the winter storm. And we've sent letters. We put it in our magazine to say what we thought were the solutions. We've sent letters to the governor, lieutenant governor, speaker, the committee chairmen that are responsible for it, all of our representatives. And so in your area, Shelby Slauson got the letter as an example, advocating what we believe needs to change. And ultimately, the bills that got passed, which are Senate Bill 2 and Senate Bill 3, they didn't do a whole lot to address the issues of the ERCOT market. And so what's happened since then is the governor has sent a letter to the Public Utility Commission and basically told the Public Utility Commission, you need to do these 4 or 5 things, and market reform is on the list. And so they're working on it right now, but there's really no understanding of what that means yet. And so we're still sort of waiting to see what happens as far as what is the PUC going to suggest and put out there, and do the legislators get irritated? I don't know what all that looks like at the end of the day, but ultimately we've got some challenges ahead of us, and you bring up a really good point. I just wish I could answer positively that we have solutions, and we don't yet. So I wanted you to be aware of that. So thanks for your question.
Thank you. I want to say that United was heads and shoulders above Encore and AEP. You didn't have people that were out for 3 and 4 days, and that was excellent.
Yeah, that's right. And we did what we were supposed to do, and guess what? They knew what they were supposed to do too. And I don't have an answer as to why they didn't, but we did, and I think our members appreciate it, just like your comment. So I appreciate your comment very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, as a reminder, if you've got a question you'd like to ask, now's the time to press *3 on your telephone keypad to enter the question queue, just like Larry did. We've got Larry live on the line with us right now. Larry, welcome to the call. Go ahead with your question, please.
Yes, I was wondering when we were going to be getting internet out here. And again, thank you very much for what all you do supporting the customers. Again, thank you for the, we had minimal power outage. And anyway, just want to thank everybody with United Co-op, the great job they did, and they do. But I was wondering when we could expect to get the internet out this way. We're north of Stephenville, and I think I've seen the fiber optics being put in the lines, And so that was my question.
Very good question, and I think a few people have a similar question. So we have a contractor called Johnson Communications. That's the group we've hired to do a lot of the installation labor on the main lines for us. They're doing a great job for us. That when you see their trucks, and you'll see a little circle, their logo looks a little similar to ours, and it says Johnson Communications, and most of their trucks say United, working for United or something along those lines. When you see those guys in your area, you're getting a lot closer. And so if you've seen those folks, in your area, then you're probably months away from being able to be served on the fiber optic system. Now, one thing I need you to do, though, is I need you to go ahead and sign up so we know that you're wanting to connect. It helps us to sort of plan appropriately if you can go ahead and sign up for that. So I appreciate your question. Hope I was able to answer it.
Thank you.
All righty. Again, if you've got a question you'd like to ask, there are a couple of ways to submit it. You can simply press *3 on your telephone keypad to enter the question queue to ask a question live. And if you're listening in online, just enter your name and question below the streaming player. So again, go ahead and submit your question either online or by pressing *3. Okay. If I'm looking forward here, I've got another question that looks like this is pretty granular in regards to high-speed options. But the question comes from Cal Online. Are there plans to run fiber to and in 7R Ranch?
So it's hard to say exactly how all this ends up at the end. So what I will tell you is this: our project, as it stands today, we've got fiber optics in a good part of our territory. In the most rural parts of our territory, it gets really expensive to hang fiber. And so what our design is today is to put a number of wireless towers out that serve 100 megabit wireless, which is a good solid product, and they have enough towers to make sure you actually get that speed. The other part on the wireless system that's designed today is to actually run fiber optics to each of those tower locations in order to ensure that you have the utmost performance of the wireless. Now, with all that said, my goal would be to install as few wireless towers as we can. And so I highlight this for a reason. We have multiple phases in our project. We're completing phase 1 probably in the next 6 to 9 months. Phase 2 is going to be significantly around the Granbury and Tolar area. And then phase 3 is basically the remaining rural areas that weren't hit in phase 1. A lot of those are based and designed to be wireless today. What we're trying to do is leverage the infrastructure funds that are available through the federal government to build as few of those wireless towers as possible and drive fiber as deeply as we can into our system on the first go. And so that's what we're trying to accomplish. Now, the reason I bring all that up is to highlight, there are certain subdivisions that may be more rural that make more sense for us to take fiber to that subdivision. But then there may be areas that are rural and some of you live in these areas, where you drive 3 miles to get to the next house. And so we're trying to leverage basically the wireless and the fiber infrastructure in a way that we can get you the best service possible. But our goal in the end is to build as little wireless as possible and as much fiber as we can. And I'd like to tell you today that that's firm and fixed, but it's not. We're studying several areas right now that we had planned to put wireless infrastructure in that we're actually going to put fiber infrastructure in. And so it just seems to make more sense in certain areas. It's costing us a little bit more, but within the financial model, we have room to do it. The challenge is we don't have room to do it across the whole system. We just don't have the money to do that. It will break our financial model, and y'all don't want that to happen. And so we have to be reasonable in what we're able to do. But I can tell you, if you have a strong, solid 100 megabit connection, you can do anything you need to do today. and that's our goal, is for everybody to have that for sure. And our goal when we started this was that you would have it within 5 years, and I'm sure a few of you just winced when I said that because we've been going for a year and a half, almost 2 years now. But we're moving as quickly as we can, and our goal still is to be done, in 5 years, and hopefully sooner if we can. But hopefully all that information I just gave you helps a little bit.
Thank you very much, Cameron. Let's go back to another live caller. We got Matt joining us on the line. Matt, welcome to the call. Go ahead with your question.
Hey, Cameron. Thanks for all the information on the Internet. I'm looking at your coverage map, and it would be really helpful if we could get some granular estimates of where the Internet service is going to be next. It's pretty vague. And so you mentioned multiple phases and coverage options. If you could, give us some more information on that coverage map, it would really help out so we could plan for, when we're going to get service and other options if we're not going to get service for a while.
Yeah, Matt, that's a really good point. And I'll explain to you sort of why we have done what we've done there. We do still have competitors, and so we're trying to be mindful of not giving competitive information out too quickly because we have a few folks that would like to, believe it or not, thwart our project, and so we're trying to be mindful of that. So we're trying to be careful of what we say and when we say it and how we say it. So I know that doesn't help you as a member plan, but I think, offline we can probably work with you and give you a rough idea as to when that's going to be. But we haven't posted some of that public for a reason. So that hopefully it answers that question. But we can sure give you a rough idea as to what our plans are. And we have certain hot zones around PK that were actually in Phase 1 and approved as a part of Phase 1. So it really just depends on where you're at there. And it has to do with where our infrastructure is and where our backbone is as to what we could quickly turn up. And so just because you're in a rural area doesn't mean you won't have access to the services. It just depends on where you're at compared to the assets that we're installing right now. But PK is a little further out, but like I said, that 6 to 9 months that you should see the Johnson crews start to show up probably in the next 6, 7, 8 months up there, just to, sort of depending on where you're at. But yeah, please reach out to us and one-on-one, and we'll be able to help you on a little bit better timeline, especially if you're planning on maybe using a different provider for a year or two or something like that. We understand that's happening right now, and we want to give you the best data that we can give you.
Yeah, there's more of us working from home these days, so any information we can get helps us plan. So thank you, Cameron.
Yep, I understand completely. Hey, folks,
all righty.
Thank you for that. Dirk, you want to, close us? I guess most of the questions are similar at this point in time, and I've answered a good number of them. So I'll let you sort of take it from here.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Cameron. And yes, there do seem to be a few questions left here in the queue. And if you've got a question, please remember that you can leave a voicemail for us at the end of this call, and we will call you back and speak one-on-one with you. You can also call the office at 254-965-3153. So a couple of ways for you to get your question answered if we didn't get to it here during this call. Again, you can leave a voicemail at the end of this event, so just hold on for that. Or you can always call the office at 254-965-3153. Cameron, do you have any parting words for everyone?
I do, and I know there's a couple of questions that we haven't covered. Most of them are related to things that I've answered, and you'd asked your question before I had responded, so I think we've covered most. But we're going to reach out to each one of you that has a question and make sure you got it answered. So the fact that we're ending the call now doesn't mean you're not going to get a response. So I want to highlight that to you. But I just want to say I appreciate how much each of you mean to us and the fact that you participated today. Part of the success of our cooperative is because of members like you and being and playing an active role in your electric cooperative. And I encourage you to continue to do that. If we're not meeting your expectations in any certain way, please let us know. We can't fix it if we don't know it's broke. And so I just want to encourage you. You can reach out to call any office, or if you want to send me an email or send me a letter or whatever it takes. We're going to address your issue if you got one. But I think for the most part, our members are pretty satisfied with the service that we provide. But we always look to do better all the time. So I appreciate your feedback when you give it to us. It's very helpful for us. So thank you for your attention this evening, and God bless you as we go forward. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Cameron, and thank you to everyone for taking the time to participate in today's call. We hope you stay healthy and safe and have a wonderful evening.